Bom dia, Portugal!
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria, Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show live stream and the podcast. Oh, look at that. Someone's given us a love already. Leela, good morning to you. Thank you so much. Yes, smashed. Still really don't know. We hear this every day, don't we? Don't tread on the cracks on the pavement. I mean, no, don't, hit the like button, smash the like button. And I don't know if it makes any difference whatsoever, but if it makes you feel better, it makes me feel better to hear that people are doing that. But I really don't know what it does. It's the magic of technology. And talking of which, I can let you into a little secret. Here I was at Nazaré, kind of, yesterday. Well, in the ballpark. If you're finding what with, is it 40,000 people that have turned up at Nazaré? You can't get up there, you can't park, you can't see anything. Let me commend this to you. This is me yesterday with a little bit of old school AI. At the top of my street is a holiday camp. And they've got a mural outside. And if you can't be bothered to go all the way to Nazaré, you can just stand by this mural, as I did yesterday, and create the effect of you having a great time at Nazaré on the Silver Coast. You're very welcome. Right, who's in this morning? Let's take a look. Antonio Barbosa, Tony Time, the man in the Minho. There you are, Lila. Good morning, Portugal. How are you? Antonio Barbosa, Feliz Carta, not Quinta tomorrow, of course. How are you doing, the man in the Minho? I hope I know you're having a great time up there. I'm doing something this lunchtime which you would be very proud of, Antonio, going out to the storytellers. It's the fourth Wednesday of the month, and we have our storytellers lunch, and we've got about 20 people turning up today to eat Marco's beautiful food and enjoy his beautiful ambiance at the Gatsby Bar at midday. If you haven't managed to book for lunch and you're a bit disappointed, there's always next month, or just come and have a drink. Come and have a drink from midday in the Gatsby Bar. Well, I might be having a little bit of Vinho Verde to get the party started and swinging this lunchtime, and then a beautiful lunch at 1 o'clock in the dining room. And there is a WhatsApp alert group for that. Thank you, Ben Austin, for bringing to my attention and showing me how to use a WhatsApp community. We do have a WhatsApp community, Good Morning Portugal WhatsApp community. And all our lovely little groups, our subgroups, the San Martino de Porto Grapevine, the Storytellers, the Wine Club, the Algarve Meetup, all sorts of wonderful groups under one umbrella. Even a Bitcoin and crypto chat in there. There's all sorts. There's something for everybody in there, and we will be adding to the groups in there. And I hope you find that useful. Oh, and I've also been over at on our coffee platform, where people can subscribe and support the show. I've also been rejigging over there as well. Rejigging in the rigging with some fun over at school. No, not school. Hold on a minute. Let me just take a breath. I just distracted myself massively there for no particular and obvious reason. We have the coffee platform. This is the way you can support the show, by the way. And I bring it to your attention once in a while. I don't think I'm too pushy with this. There are two ways to support the show. One is a €9 a month Portugal Club. I'm calling it the Portugal Club now. I know it's a bit confusing. GMP VIP Portugal Club. It is the Portugal Club. The Portugal Club is all about everything you need for a great life in Portugal. What you need to know, who you need to know, our private community, and so on. And if you want to take it a step further, if you really want to be involved in shaping the future of the Good Morning Portugal community and what we do. You can support us at mastermind level as well, and that involves a lot more one-to-one with me and personal support, and you have some skin in the game in influencing the future of the Good Morning Portugal community over there. So let me put that, if you've been thinking, oh, I'd love to support the Good Morning Portugal show, I haven't got around to that yet, I've rejigged that all over there, and I'm putting the link for doing so on the screen now. You can go to coffee.com, Good Morning Portugal /GMP/tiers. If you would prefer to pay in dollars, you can do so at gmpvip.com, as you can my name right here. If I take that off the screen, gmpvip.com. If you prefer to pay in dollars, it's $10 a month to support the show. And you can see all the features and benefits if you go to coffee.com /GMP/tiers. Thank you very much. That's the end of this commercial break. And let's see who else is here this morning. Buddy, bon dia, alegria. Where is everybody? And thank you, by the way, to the growing number of people who are supporting us in that way. Thank you very much indeed. It does not go unnoticed, and very grateful to you. Without you, it will be a whole lot more difficult. Coach Turner, bon dia todos, out in a pub with a couple of friends last night in Lincolnshire, and chatting to a guy who lived near Cascais. Amazing, isn't it? I asked him what his favourite thing was about living in Portugal, even though he was in Lincolnshire. The people! Excellent. We love that, don't we? So, yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with that. Thank you, Coach Turner. It's funny, isn't it? Right there in the middle of Lincolnshire, and you end up sitting near a guy and chatting to a guy who lives near Cascais. Good choice. That was a recent webinar, of course, with Wiley over at Expats Portugal. We'll be talking to Jackie from Expats Portugal at around 8:45. Now, she's doing a webinar tomorrow evening. Always great fun talking to Jackie, as we do, obviously, on the show on a Wednesday morning. Oh, the doc as well. And rapper BeRosey is joining us as well. I'm just downloading the visual for Jackie's upcoming webinar, which is tomorrow. Oh, and there's this nice little thing happening at Valdeparaiso as well, just outside San Martino de Porto, that I'm busily downloading as well. Oh, and Solo 50 Plus gave us some nice feedback over on YouTube as well. So all of those coming. Jackie joining me at 8:45 tomorrow before the Dream Team session, which happens at 9 o'clock, of course, over on the Expats Portugal YouTube channel. We have a webinar, and tomorrow night, so last week it was Nuno talking about the Portuguese health system. He took a slightly different angle with lots of data and background before he brought it all together to give us an excellent presentation on the Portuguese health system, public and private. The whole thing explained last week, which you can see now on the Expats Portugal YouTube channel. Tomorrow evening, we're looking at this. This is why moving to Portugal exceeded my expectations. Jackie will be along in a few minutes to tell us a little bit about that, a deeper dive into the cost of living figures. So looking at the cost of living here in Portugal from Jackie's personal point of view, with a few extra anecdotes and insights as well that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Thank you very much, Jackie. See you soon. Right, okay, let's go back to the God Squad tip of the day then, before she arrives this morning. And it is one of the biggest challenges of keeping weight under control is the joy of snacking. So true. I've been eating so many bowls of cornflakes sprinkled with demerara sugar and a lovely cold plant milk. I realize, Coach, I think I like it because it's refreshing, and I might get better off with just a glass of water. Anyway, you're absolutely right. I've always enjoyed a cheeky nibble between meals. Who doesn't like a cheeky nibble? And so now I make up a little pot of mixed nuts and raisins, which help to counter hunger pangs. Because I think I do have some sympathy with this idea that we are grazers, aren't we? We're hunter-gatherers, and we forage naturally. The industrial mealtime is a thing of modernity, isn't it? And imagine, as animals in the past, we just grabbed food in smaller amounts on a more regular basis. So Coach's nuts, I would thoroughly recommend Coach's nuts. That's got quite a possible marketing angle and ring to it, isn't it? So a little pot of trail mix, basically. It won't suit everyone, but it might help, and they're pretty good for you too. Better than my cornflakes, my absolutely useless cornflakes with Frankenstein plant milk and demerara sugar. That's It's a satisfying little bowl of goodies, not if not goodness, but a bowl of. I think I'm going to get back on the trail mix as Coach Turner suggests this morning. Nice one, Coach T. Excellent stuff. Bom dia, Gumpers. Feliz quinta a todos from James. Como estão? And a mindful moment from James. Oh, I'll tell you what, before we get into this, it's official. The Spartan FX Stress-Free Tuesday or Chill Out Tuesday, after yesterday's excellent work with Sarah and Marion we from Walksperia, we will be doing that every month on that fourth Tuesday of the month, the Chill Out Tuesday with Spartan FX. Taking the stress out of moving to Portugal from all sorts of different angles. So Marion will be a resident. I dare say we'll have other speakers along as well who can help you take the stress out of moving to Portugal, which of course James, a friend of Slug, does every Monday morning as well. So we're there for you in a holistic way, moving to Portugal and taking the stress out of it from every angle. And the mindful moment then, along those lines and on that wavelength from the Dalai Lama this morning via James and the Slug. Love and compassion benefit both ourselves and others. Through kindness to others, your heart and mind will be peaceful and open. Isn't that lovely? Now, thank you very much. Mindful Moment seems to have become a fixture, an institution here on the Good Morning Portugal show. So thank you for doing that, James. I love our organic evolution, and that's definitely a part of it. We'll move from a mindful moment into a mindful dad joke, the sublime and the ridiculous here on the GMP. What happens? Oh, very good. When a Buddhist becomes totally absorbed with the computer technology, he enters nirvana. Very good. And you sent me a visual as well, not a mindful one necessarily, more of an herbal one, as you would say in the United States. Enjoy the sunshine while you can. This is sage advice. And who is that cartoonist there? I feel when it's a meme, I don't mind sharing it so much. But when it's a copyrighted cartoon and I can't even read the cartoonist's name to give them credit, let alone pay them, it's a little bit more uncomfortable. But I think this is a good one. And I hope that cartoonist gets the appropriate creds. If only I could read what then. Is it Stoves? Enjoy the sunshine while you can, sage advice, and eventually we'll all end up in a recipe. It's a metaphor. We're all going back to the big cosmic soup, and the little bit of the extra joke underneath there. It's a rosemary thought. This sage pun was a long time cumin. Oh, ouch. Should have warned you before delivering that. Thank you very much, James, for that sage advice. Well, it is a bit on the same sort of wavelength as a sort of content you generally serve up to us, and now habitually of a morning. So thanks, James, for all of your mindful input. Okay, Leela's in. Antonio Bairandi, hola Malta, bon dia from a sunny Bairrada. Bairandi, I've been in touch with Paul by WhatsApp. We'll get him back on the show as soon as he's ready. Oh, this looks good. I'll get you down to visit. I will get down to visit you in the next few weeks, Carl. Cheers, Antonio. Looking forward to that. And another way you can support the show is to make a donation of 500,000 euros. Consider it your cultural investment. No visa, of course, but you will feel great about it. That's an idea I can really get behind, Antonio. So if anybody needs my IBAN number, I wants to make a donation of that kind. I'm sure everybody will understand. I'll stop the show and I'll ring you directly. Okay, so just let me know. I'm in the chat. That's a great idea. Anything from 5 to 500,000, gratefully received. Nice one. Cultural investment. What you did there. Hashtag cultural investment. Good morning from Travansa de Lagos. Yes, Lagos. I'm so confused about that now. Bon dia from Michael Barton. Lovely to correspond with you on GMP VIP, a recent supporter over there. Thank you very much, Michael. Chatting about house music. House music's where it's at. And we're going to be going from house to hip hop. And we've got BeRosey, and I'm going to play you his fantastic, or one of his fantastic tunes. I think it's one of his latest. In anticipation of him joining us at 9:30 this morning, all the way from Montreal. Lagos. That's what I said. Lagos. Lagos. I am. This is what we talked about on Monday, isn't it, James? Eventually, it just loses all meaning. So I'm going to have to find a way of embedding that. And I asked Clive yesterday, who's from that place, Lagos. You see, I'm going for the la there. Anyway, I'll move on. Bon dia, Tony Time, Giandis, Baddy, Andy, Barak, Michael. What a beautiful sunny day. It is, isn't it? It's a sunny day here in Portugal. We'll check out with Jackie what it's like in Cascais in just a moment. And hola, the rain has given way to the sun in Madeira as well. Good morning to you, Aviva. House music all night long. Yes, Michael. Bon dia. Oh, and also, Barak, thank you for sending me the video of my dance tune from back in the day that was heavily influenced by house music, of course. So thank you for that. It was a nice little memory, actually, more of a sample DJ tune than a house music tune, but we were certainly influenced by the house tunes that we were picking up on import coming into London back in those days in the late 80s. Bon dia from Pinky. How are you doing? And I've sent you a few pictures. Nice one, Pete. I love sunny winter mornings. You can see so far. On a clear day, I take a look around you. I have sent you some sunrise pictures from the living room. Is that a euphemism, Pete? I just do hope that is a genuine photographic comment and none of your smutty sexual innuendo, because you know I don't approve of that sort of thing. Let's give her a nice big round of applause and bring her onto the screen. Jackie A from Expats Portugal. Good morning. Hola, bon dia, Jackie. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Very well. We have a beautiful sunny day here in Cascais as well this morning.
What happened? I mean, we've got a full moon at the moment, haven't we? So the night sky, I was very foggy actually when I took the dogs
out. It's the 25th. We have tomorrow night, I think, is the full moon. Okay. It's January 25th. I can never sleep on a full moon, so I track them.
Oh, is that right? So you're expecting a sleepless night tomorrow?
I don't know. I just started to realize that it's when there was a full moon, I'd have trouble sleeping. So now I know.
Those very earthbound cynics, they say, hooey, this full moon, full schmoon. Absolutely, it affects us, right? If it can pull the tides and move the water around on the planet, it can certainly move around our personal waters, can it not?
Well, you should talk to prison guards, then they'll tell you the difference.
Exactly. Yeah, and people who work in casualty as well. And teachers probably. And long-suffering wives, not to mention. Now, tomorrow evening, of course, you're presenting whilst under the influence of a full moon. How is that going to be?
Oh, my gosh. Why did you tell me that?
Well, I'll be there. But I'm a Cancerian who's a little bit prone to some full moon influence as well. So
it's a Cancer moon, which I don't even know what that means.
I'll ask Mrs. M.
I have no idea what that even means. Yeah, I guess I am going to be talking tomorrow under a full moon. And, you know, the title says, Why Exceeds My Expectations? And I did a webinar about a month and a half ago, I think a couple of months ago now. And one of the things we talked about are just on the surface. What are the numbers? You know, what are your utility prices in the UK versus Portugal and the US? And we talked about utilities. We talked about gasoline. We even talked about the price of a movie ticket, food, healthcare. Yes. And so one of the things I'm looking at, and it did exceed my expectations, but it's kind of the whys. What's really happening? And we talked a little bit about this earlier. And so for anyone who's watching, I may repeat some of these things tomorrow night, but you know, it's what's behind the numbers. And I think it's anything from, let's look at fun things like, you know, Lisbon has, it's not just you get a cheaper movie ticket, but Lisbon has in addition to great movie houses that do 3 IMAX, and now there's one that does 4 IMAX, which, you know, really? Rains and snows on you. They have great art house cinemas.
You should dig your way out of the cinema. It's amazing.
Yeah, they have great art house cinemas, and like really, they're it's not uncommon to find art house cinemas in historic architecture, homes, and so it's quite an experience. There's a few in Lisbon, so you know I'll be talking about that. Even Hotel Bahia in Cascais, which is a very famous hotel. I didn't know this. They have at the top of their hotel, they have an outdoor cinema. So you're overlooking the ocean in this beautiful hotel and an outdoor cinema. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm also going to talk about what it means healthcare here. So what is the idea behind universal healthcare?
Yeah.
What does that mean? And how does that look as opposed to coming from somebody like me coming from the US. I'll tell you one of the most shocking things for me during the pandemic was that Portugal, because remember, the thinking is universal health care, gave people even in Portugal who are here illegally full access to health care.
That's a civilization for you.
Could you imagine that in the US? That would never happen. So it's not just the numbers, but what's happening, what is the thinking behind those numbers? How does the government see it? How do the people see it? And I'm going to talk about the numbers too, because they're extraordinary. You know, if I was going to get a hip replacement in the US, it would be almost 40,000 USD. Here it's just over 6,000.
Incredible.
So we're going to do everything. I'm going to talk about that so that people understand. If you're an environmentalist, you're looking at things like gasoline prices and utility prices, which we're looking at the prices, but what does that actually mean in terms of car emissions, in terms of renewable energy in this country?
Well, I've got a question about renewable energy. I keep seeing all these stories about how we're going more and more reliant, and in fact, you know, the balance of power literally is moving towards renewables and less towards old fossil fuels in terms of supplying the grid. But for some reason, Jackie, I know it's relatively better than many other places around the world, but we're not, that isn't being passed on to the consumer as far as I can see as yet. You would hope so, wouldn't you, at some point?
Yeah, and let's see what happens, because I think, so somebody could correct me, I think we're looking at 88% renewable energies by 2026. I think that's the goal.
Right.
And I think I think all those issues are going to be revisited.
Well, I
because
hope
people are
so.
going to be asking the same question. Look, we're doing great on renewable energy. When are we going to see this?
This is supposed to be easier to produce, an abundant resource. And you think, so if there's an abundance, does that mean there's an abundance of opportunity for corporations to make even more money? Or is that going to be passed down? Are we going to get some trickle down on this? Anyway, I don't want to sour the prospect of your excellent webinar tomorrow evening.
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate question. And I think the government is right now, you know, I mean, the government's in real flux right now. So there are a lot of things happening.
And I think things to think about at the moment, like getting re-elected, right?
Yeah, so I really do believe that they really are doing a good job in terms of being on their way to meeting those goals of renewable energy. And I do think, if you look at one of the slides I showed last time, utilities are still significantly less expensive in Portugal than they would be in the UK or the US.
Heavens, yes, absolutely, no question. And that is you know, is a matter of relativity, isn't it? I guess we used to take it for granted a few years back. Is like it's all just great, and now there's a bit of a caveat coming in. This is true with healthcare as well, isn't it? It's like there are similar pressures as there are all over the world for all the governments and societies of the world with all of these issues. However, relatively speaking, it's a joy to be here in Portugal still, and you'll be going into those numbers, but not just the numbers, not just quantity, but quality of life as well. And I think that's what makes your webinars different, is you'll go into the qualitative and actually the joy, the joie de vivre of being here, as well as how little it costs in relative terms.
And the truth is, we're all, if you move here, we're enjoying those numbers. Let's not, but we want, if the environment's important to you, you want to say, look, I'm enjoying these numbers, but it also meets a moral need of mine. So this works on many levels. This is working for me. So I think that that's important too, because we don't want to just feel as newcomers or people moving here that we're enjoying these numbers at the expense of the environment, at the expense, and people have intimated that those numbers we're being enjoyed at the expense of, you know, the happiness of maybe the Portuguese, and that's really not what's happening. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to really talk about that. We should feel good about what's happening in this country.
Yep, well said, and looking forward to that. And all under the glow of a full moon tomorrow evening when we do that. Sorry to remind you of that again. Is it a mild case of werewolfism you picked up on your Balkan travels, Jackie? You know, I think I probably speak for both of us here, Jackie. It's something we've had all our lives. And as Pinky says here, it's just something that occurs to people after a while, isn't it? Says Pinky. I'm wondering if the full moon has something to do with my insomnia. Seems like it happens around that time. I'll pay more attention. So fair enough. Thank you for mentioning that. We can ask the doctor. I imagine Doc will have noticed a little bit more lunacy, literally. If not in
That
himself,
is, you know, something
in others.
I never put that together. Lunacy.
Right, of
Oh
course.
my gosh.
Lunatics. Yes,
Exact.
yes.
That is it.
It's
That
right there. It's always in the language. It's always in the language. If all these words that we keep saying and eventually lose the meaning, like Lagos, you know, the etymology is often a giveaway to what is really going on.
that's amazing. I've not ever thought of lunacy, and that's
Oh
it.
yes. Oh yeah, lunatics and lunacy. Apparently, with the energy, there is now only 6% on tax on renewables, which started in January this year. So the government are giving it back, and it saved me a few euros, says Pete. So they are passing it on, just imperceptibly, slowly. Perhaps
Yeah.
Portugal, don't come if you don't want to fall in love. Oh yes. And with a full romantic moon as well, because there's that side to it as well, isn't there? The romance of the full moon as well. Which we'll be enjoying. All of us who will be there for the Expats Portugal webinar tomorrow, and everyone else in the world, of course, blessed by the full moon tomorrow. Why moving to Portugal exceeded my expectations with Jackie tomorrow evening. And after that, the usual dream team session. So I'll see you then, Jackie.
Yay.
You have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Thank
You
you.
have a
You
great day there.
too.
I'll see you then tomorrow night. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
All right, bye for now. Bye for now. Okay, before we get Andy on, we've got about 3 minutes, and it's a perfect timing in which to introduce our guest at 9:30. We played music yesterday from Mackenzie and Gardner. We Can Make It Better. Bit of a boogie tune, a funk tune. We're going to move from that part of the dance floor into the hip hop part of the club. Right now, and we're going to play you the tune Family, which is very appropriate for us here, Gumpers. This, especially for you, the Gumper family. BeRosey, my guest at 9:30. From On a Roll Records. That's BeRosey, my guest at 9:30 with FAMILY. There's the Doc on the screen there, pretending he hasn't noticed us. Doc, morning.
Hola,
Hello,
bom
bon dia.
dia.
Tudo bem?
Tudo bem, sim,
Did you see
tudo.
what he did there? Did you see what he did there, Doc? FAMILY. ILY. I love you. That's really clever, isn't it? Why has no rapper or song creator ever done that before? Maybe they have, but he certainly brought that to my attention there. That's really clever. And looking
Yeah,
forward
it's good.
to. You like a bit of happy hip hop then?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Good.
Well, always up for any hip hop, but happy hip hop's nice.
Yeah, very good. He's here on tour in Portugal from Montreal at the moment. So looking forward to chatting with him at 9:30. And if you want to stick around and hang out, us cool hip hop guys together, we can do.
Oh yeah,
do that. Oh yeah, he says. So, how have you been? It's been a while, because we didn't do a Christmas show because of the way the holiday fell last year. It's been a while since I've seen you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah,
Great.
everything's good. We're just chilling, taking a bad life easy, you know.
Like a rapper yourself now, right? Okay, that's the name of your album. Taking a bad life easy. Is that right?
It's an old saying from Handsworth.
Taking a bad life easy. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Either bad life or hard life.
Yes.
Different people say different things, but it means the same thing in the end.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you just got to make of it what you will, and roll with the hand of cards that you are dealt. I guess is the gist of that. Right. Quite a serious little segment with you this morning. Something that will be of interest and possible relief to people is your consumer issue that you went through that you thought would be useful for people to hear about. So that I'm looking forward to that. And of course, this issue that I've kept talking to you about over the last few months, which is excess deaths. And we saw the news last week that Portugal is experiencing, it would appear, by some accounts, and that was the first response when I first started talking about, oh, you need more than one source. Oh, where are those figures from? But it would appear that Portugal has the highest number of excess deaths, something like 700 more than you would be expecting at this time of year, making it the highest in Europe. So we'll return to that part of the conversation. And first, hear about this consumer issue. You fought the law. Well, you fought the man, didn't you? You stuck it to the man, Doc. Tell us about this.
I did. Well, this is an amusing story. Well, I think it's an amusing story. So most of you will know I travel around on a wheelchair, electric wheelchair, which is pretty fast. And I certainly in the hot Portuguese summer, I don't want to wear a lot of clothes. So I have difficulty getting, come on.
No, where is this story going? Okay, so what I've got is like naked wheelchair user.
Yeah, naked wheelchair user. Yeah, okay. Nowhere to put his keys. So I normally hang my door keys on the joystick of my wheelchair.
On what?
On the joystick. There you go. Have another one of my wheelchair. Right, on the joystick of my wheelchair. And
oh dear.
One day I was coming through the lift, and I didn't ensure that the keys weren't hanging over the side, and so naturally I was too close to the edge of the door. Got the keys caught. The keys pulled off the key ring and dropped down the lift shaft in the gap between the lift and the actual shaft wall. Down
and slow motion,
5 stories.
Just dropping 5 stories.
Yeah.
You're like, hold on a minute, they're nearly there. Oh, there they dropped.
Exactly. I wasn't locked out, thankfully, because I think Alicia was in the flat. But what had happened was our only garage door remote key was on that ring, and so that fell down the lift shaft as well, which meant that I was unable to get the car out of the garage. In fact, Alicia wasn't in because she was still at school. So I was worried about going to pick her up from school. I was worried about getting out of the building in the car at all. And I was also worried about going out on my chair because there's a small step coming out of our apartment. Dropping down it is easy, but I can't go up it. So I normally go down the ramp into the garage and then back in, but I can't go up the ramp. So I wouldn't have been able to get out either. Because the garage door wouldn't have been opening. There is no switch on the wall. So I rang a famous lift company who I won't name to embarrass, but if you think about sitting on the dock of the bay, you will know which lift company I mean. I said, look, this is urgent. This is why it's urgent. My disability, blah, blah, blah. And the guy said, well, he spoke in English. He said, well, there will be a charge. I said, yeah, I understand that. He didn't say what the charge was. Anyway, within an hour, guy turns up, knocks on the door, explains in Portuguese who he is. This is 2.5 years ago, so I didn't know what the hell he was saying other than I reckoned he was from the lift company.
Yes, Elevador and Chaves were there somewhere.
Something like that. 5 minutes later, he comes back with the key fob suitably mangled, the remote, which thankfully it turned out did just about still work enough for us to be able to go and get a replacement from a key programmer. And the guy presents Leona with a pretty much a blank piece of paper to sign, all in Portuguese, no amount on it, and he didn't ask for any money. So, oh well, because we'd assumed that we would be asked to pay with multibanco, because I had a multibanco card, but no, we weren't asked for that. So he went on his way, and 2 weeks later, a bill turns up, 110 euros.
Woo!
So I thought, come on, you're having a laugh, mate.
Ouch.
So having a giraffe. So I emailed them. I said, come on, this is a bit ridiculous. We don't mind paying about 35 euros, but 110's not on. And they said, no, that's what it is. So I knew in the back of my mind there was a Portuguese consumer protection law. And I didn't go and look it up at the time, but I knew roughly that it said they have to quote you the price in advance. So I emailed them back. I said, look, I know you have to quote the price in advance. We won't quote the price in advance, not paying the 110. No response. They kept sending us a bill every 2 months. This is 2.5 years ago now. They kept sending us a bill every 2 months. And eventually I went and did the research, and I'll go through that research with you shortly, but the research enabled me then to email them and say, this is the law. You have committed I think the wording is severe administrative offence. And the amount they would be charged, fined, is a huge amount in comparison with the bill. Got no response. They kept sending every 2 months or so, they'd send us a bill and we would studiously ignore it. Most of the time, we wouldn't even open it. Anyhow, finally, oh yeah, they did respond somewhere in that process with an offer to reduce the bill to 70 euros, but we said no. Anyway, so played a bit of brinkmanship, and they kept on sending these bills, and I knew, that it'd be years before they'd even get it into court, so I wasn't worried. And then a couple of weeks ago, we come back from going out, and there's a card from CTT that says you've had an undelivered recorded letter from the lift company. I nearly said the name there. From the lift company. And we thought, oh no, they're finally got it in front of the court. So I think it was over the weekend, so we hadn't got into the CTT to collect it. And I spent quite a while doing the full research on this. And this is what I've sent you the link, so whenever you want to bring them up. But that was, so I was all ready with my 2-page defense to put before the court, translated into my best DeepL Portuguese, and then Leona went and picked it up because it was in her name, and it was a recorded delivery that was a credit note for the full amount, so they'd stopped chasing us for any of it. So they clearly realised. I mean, there's no way they would have sent a credit note for the full amount unless they realised they were clearly at risk of having to pay this administrative fine. So yeah, full amount.
The offence being that you can't just give somebody a blank bill and then send them any old number you make up subsequently.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not even that. If you go to there are. I think I sent you 3 links.
You did. I'm popping them all up in the chat as we speak. In the order that you sent them to me. Yeah.
So if we go first to the law, so this is the Transport Direttiva number 2011-83 UE de Parlamento Europeo e do Conselho.
Yeah.
The 25th of October 2011, blah blah blah. So it's the transposition or the giving effect to Directive 83 of 2011 of the European Union, as it relates to consumer rights.
Mm-hmm.
And my stupid Google doesn't want to translate the page. I normally open these in Google because in Chrome because I use the translate, and it's not translated. Just see if I reload it if it'll work. But effectively, it pretty much brings in word for word what the law was in Europe, and it talks about. I can translate enough to be able to explain what it says. So it says basically that with contracts, which the agreement that you form over the phone, which is a remote contract. It's a contract not at the place of business.
Right.
That contract, even when it's a verbal agreement, before they actually start work, they have to give you all sorts of information in writing. That includes the price of the work, or if they don't know, if they can't tell you exactly what the price is going to be, how it's going to be worked out. So if they don't know how long it's going to take them, they can say, well, it's going to be 20 euros an hour or 30 euros an hour, plus a call-out charge based on X number of kilometers, whatever. So that has to be in writing, because you have to have the ability to back out that contract once you see how much they want to fleece you for.
Yes. Yeah.
And so because they didn't do that, they were in breach of the law. And those of you who managed to get their Google Translate working more effectively than me,
well, I've got
those. Here we go.
Yeah. Anybody who wants that, I can forward that on to them. And as Pete is saying here, good for you, Doc. It's bad. It is bad that a potentially a far less vociferous individual, which is how he's describing you here, in a wheelchair may just pay the bill, though. And that is, I guess, what is being relied upon, isn't it, with a company?
Yeah, the point is, I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people on this call who might be in this position. Specifically early on in their Portuguese journey, of not understanding their consumer rights, and of getting caught like this. And 100 euros is well, it's 100 bottles of beer, for God's sake. It's not.
Well, when you put it like that, I am angry now. I wasn't angry before, but now you put it like that, I'm furious, Doc.
It's not an inconsiderable amount of money. Yeah. Or it's 10 reasonable lunches,
Yeah, no, true. And I guess the bitter taste is feeling like you're being exploited in the vagary of the contract, right? Or lack.
You weren't exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, so if you go to the second link, which I sent you, which is a Eurolex link, which is actually it's the European directive, and what it demands. So it also it defines a distance contract, an off-premises contract. It talks about it's long, but it talks basically Article 5 of the European thing. It says before the consumer is bound by a contract.
Yeah.
No, that's other than a distance, or there's somewhere else. There we go. Article 6. Before the consumer is bound by a distance or off-premises contract, the trader shall provide the consumer with the following information in a clear and comprehensible manner. First of all, they have to say who the geographical address of the trader and where they are and how to contact them. But they also have to say in paragraph C of Article 6, number 1C, 1E, the total price of the goods or services inclusive of taxes, or where the nature of goods and services such the price cannot reasonably calculate in advance the manner in which it will be calculated.
Right,
And
so
that is what,
nice bit of consumer protection there.
yeah, it's fantastic. And most people, even coming from the UK, where we have similar, in fact, we implemented the same thing. So we had this in the UK, but many people coming from other less consumer protective legislations wouldn't even think that this was a thing. So there you go.
Does it apply to toll fees and tax bills or not?
Well, toll fees are well signed, and of course there are also junctions just before the tolls, and warnings that this is the last junction before the toll. So you haven't got a hope in hell as far as the toll fees are concerned.
What I'm referring to there, Doc, is when this happened to Doug just recently, and it happens to people from time to time. You'll see it coming up in social media fora. I just got I've returned to UK, and I've just got a letter from a company that tells me that I didn't pay a 27 centimos.
So now it's going to be a €50 fine. We've got one just now.
Yeah,
and we're just in the process of appealing it. I knew we'd gone. This was our situation. I knew we'd gone down this toll road.
Yeah.
It was one of the overhead gantry ones, so there was no
they're
way of sticking any money anywhere.
Exactly.
And I knew we'd gone down it, and I checked on Pagamentos every week for the next 8 weeks, and it didn't come up. In fact, some did come up, which I paid, and I assumed that was all of them.
Yeah.
And now, 5 months down the line, they want €45 off us. So I've sent them a message to say, look, we tried to pay it. We paid everything we were told we were due to pay. We're not paying this, and we'll just see how it goes.
Interesting. Yeah, and a lot of people find themselves in that and end up paying those companies, the more unscrupulous ones with tolls and parking ticket recovery, know that people give in, don't they? They weigh it up and they think, do I want these letters for the rest of my life, or do I just pay this €50 or whatever? And you can understand why people just want rid of it, and I think that's why they benefit in the long run. Over on the Portugal.
There's one other thing about this story, the Portugal site that I sent you, which tells you how to start what is effectively a small claims action.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So initiate a process on the justices of the peace, because I was actually, if this was a demand, I was going to initiate the process, and it tells you how to initiate it, how much it costs. So anyone can, any citizen, and that includes resident or any company, provided the issue may be solved by a justice of the peace. Any civil law up to an amount of €15,000. It doesn't include family, inheritance, employment, and subscription contracts. Then when can you initiate it? Actually, that doesn't mean when can you do it.
We get it. I mean, the initiation. I mean, you're talking like a Portuguese now, initiating a process with an entity. I mean,
what I do want to say just is how cheap it is to do this.
Right.
Because when you go, you pay €35. The other party then has to pay €35. Whoever wins the process gets the €35 paid by the other person. So the only risk, if you represent yourself, is €70. The other thing is, if you end up, and this won't apply to most people, but being able to get legal support, you end up not even paying that, and with no risk whatsoever, and getting your lawyer's fees paid. But it's fantastic.
I can imagine you dusting off your wig and putting your cape on and practicing your lines. I put it to you, Your Honour. Case closed. I want my €35. Right. Okay.
There you go. So you've got all the links if anyone wants them.
champion of the consumer, Doc. Thank you very much for that. And if you going back to the toll things, we've got the instructions on gmpvip.com for just popping your registration number in. And you can find out, as Doc did, whether you've got any fines or not. And sometimes they wait 2 or 3 years until you've forgotten.
Yeah.
And then you'll get that letter. Those wheels move very slowly. Right. Thank you very much for that, champion of the consumer. The other thing we're going to talk about this morning is this excess deaths in Portugal. Portugal was known as the most highly vaccinated Freudian slip country in those dark times, and now it's the place with the highest level of excess deaths in Europe. What do you make of that, ex-GP Doc Andy?
Well, if you go onto Euromomo and look at the website, the first thing is that actually we were statistically not too far off Spain, although we're reverting to normal not quite so quickly, but we were statistically not far off Spain. And it appears to be the case that it is the kind of middle age range, the young and
Seem to have lost your sound there, Doc.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, got you back again now, yeah.
Okay. It seems to be the 0 to 14 group actually stayed around the expected deaths. 15 to 44 didn't get too much higher. It was those recalcitrant anti-vaxxers in the 45 to 64 age group where the excess deaths got way above 10, as they did in Spain. But they are coming down very quickly. And so, you know, when you first asked me about it, I saw and I said, well, you know, this is still subject to correction for delays, as indeed those figures still are. And it's 1 month, and that's insufficient to really get worried about it. But I do note that, and rightly so, given the apparent demographic distribution of this apparent increase, that they're using it to push for increased vaccine uptake in this age group, which were the ones who seem to have suffered a statistically higher death rate.
So your theory would be that the amount of deaths, or the reason people are dying, is because they weren't vaccinated?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that, because it's in exactly the age range where vaccine take-up was least.
Interesting. Okay, and why do you think? I mean, what? I think there are a number of theories about why this might be, and what interests me about this is why it's not being investigated. Why, when we had at the beginning of the pandemic, just a little bit of footage from China, or those do you remember those very sort of, they're iconic in a way now, aren't they? The people falling over in China in the street, mortuaries in Italy, and we shut down society in case that was going to be happening in Portugal, or the rest of the world for that matter, and governments were quick to do so. And I don't think there was anything like the number of excess deaths as a result of that. But now there doesn't seem to be the same public health concern. So do you think the public health officials take the same line that you do, that this is just people who didn't bother to get vaccinated who are now dying of COVID-19?
Well, hold on. I'd have to look at the absolute numbers, but I don't believe that the recent excess deaths, in any way relate or trying to think of the word, be in excess of the numbers that happened around that time. And this is one, as I said, this is 1 month. And it's coming down, already it's back down almost to less than a substantial increase. The latest figure being that the Z score is actually right on 4, which is the level at which a substantial increase is determined.
Mhm.
So if it gets any lower, it's virtually in the normal range among that age group. And if we look at all range, let me have a look. All ages, it's still a bit higher because of the where are we? It's interesting how these statistics work.
Always, I would say.
I think it's so the elderly group, there is a higher Z score, but you expect that in the winter anyway, to a certain extent. Yeah, okay.
So we've got a question from Mrs. Emmy. I want to know about the sudden unexpected deaths. Well, why exactly might someone just drop dead because they were unvaxxed? So, but that's a surprise to me. Again, because we're not hearing that.
Well, hold on. Where does it say a sudden death?
Well, let's rewind a little bit. What are they dying of? You think they're dying? Their death certificates of these extra people, 700 a week, would have COVID-19 on them.
All right. So those death certificates haven't yet been analysed in terms of cause.
Yeah,
it's too early to have done that. It's easy enough to take the absolute numbers, but it's difficult to yet have gone through the causation.
Yeah.
And I would say there are two things. First of all, big swings in the reason for sudden increases. So there's a difference between sudden increase and increase in sudden. This was a sudden increase in deaths over and above what would be expected.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the sudden increase was a factor of was due to a number of things. First of all, we had what was a fairly mild autumn, which suddenly got a lot colder, and this doesn't help our ability to fight seasonal viruses at all. When you have a mild autumn, the seasonal viruses spread a lot, but then if you get a sudden drop in the temperature, then as well as a high level of viral load in the population, you then also get a reduced ability to fight it. And that happened very quickly. The other thing it coincided with, unfortunately, was a worsening of the healthcare staff to patient ratio across the public sector in Portugal. So I heard that in Leiria Hospital on Christmas Day, there were 2 doctors available, that they shut down paediatrics totally, and everyone was shifted to Coimbra. And this is down to the mismanagement of staff resourcing within the SNS and the underpayment of professionals. And that's a whole other story, but you would expect me to get public expenditure in here somewhere.
No, of course. And again, I would say I don't understand the public health response. For whatever the cause is, why is there not the same response? And I'm not expecting you to answer that, because you probably can't. It just seems strange to me that we have a crisis of this scale, yet nothing like a response that we were treated to, as it were, in 2020. But I guess I hear you. I thank you for your response. And we just have to wait and see then, don't we, to see what the cause is. Is that what you're saying? The cause of death will give further information and insight into what's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it does seem to be concentrated in Southern Europe, specifically the Iberian Peninsula, and less so, but certainly identifiably within Italy.
Yeah.
And I think it is a combination of vaccine profile, temperature, and and staffing levels.
Well, I thank you for that, and welcome any other opinions and insight into this as we continue this conversation. And hopefully, we won't have to have the conversation because the whole thing will just go away, and things will return to some sort of status quo. And very quickly then, before we talk to BeRosey, Disease X. I thought it was Dizzy Sex, Andy, that they were talking about at Davos, but no, not Dizzy Sex, Disease X. How is it we're getting ready for something that's 20 times more powerful? It's quite a specific number, isn't it? Than we were currently used to. And they're already working on something, on some sort of treatment for something we don't know what it is yet. That's 20 times. Do you smell a fish with this? Is there some sort of agenda going on behind that when it seems so mysterious, but yet so well planned for?
I suspect that some AI enthusiast in some public health research somewhere with too much access to influencers in the global elite has said, look, my artificial intelligence says that this is what is likely to happen, therefore this is what we ought to be doing in case it does happen.
Oh, okay. And some people, and whatever your agenda is, you might rub your hands at such an AI intervention.
If you're a CEO of a global pharmaceutical firm, you might indeed, yeah.
Doc. Okay, on that rather note, are you going to stay and chat with BeRosey? He's a very uplifting fella, I think.
I will, although I haven't heard anything about of his until today, but yes, I will. For a bit, anyway.
Let's give him a nice big round of applause and bring him onto the screen. BeRosey, I think live from the Lisbon area. Hello, mate. Good morning to you. Hola, bon dia. How are you?
Hola, how's it going, guys?
Yeah, good.
We're doing great, and we were cheered by your tune earlier on. FAM ILY, absolutely love that. So congratulations. Is that your new release, BeRosey?
Yes, thank you. That's last album I just released is Burbalicious, and FAM Family. That's one of the songs on the album. So I appreciate you guys listening to that. Thank you.
Absolutely love it. And that you maybe you heard a penny dropped for me. FAM ILY. I love you. Yes, that's brilliant.
I'm happy you caught on to that. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry. I probably sound a bit daft saying it like that, but I guess you must see that penny dropping with other people. And it must have been quite a nice moment for you when you were writing those lyrics.
Yeah, it was definitely a powerful song. It took some emotions, but yeah, it felt good.
And we're going to adopt it. We're planning a summer of love here in Portugal after the Carnation Revolution celebrations. It's a great anthem for that. We played a tune yesterday, We Can Make It Better, which is also part of the soundtrack. FAM ILY family. I think the sentiment of the song is that you don't get to choose your family, you get to choose your friends. It's not necessarily blood, it's more about trust, as I think you put it in the song. That's especially useful for us foreigners over here in Portugal who make a new family among people who aren't blood relatives, but people who you want and need to trust making your new life in Portugal. So are we allowed to adopt it as our theme tune as the expats?
Of course. That's the whole idea. Is I want everybody to understand, you can choose your friends, not your family, but sometimes your friends are stronger than your family.
Yeah, well said. Now, you're over here in Portugal from Montreal. How are you enjoying your trip to Portugal?
It's absolutely beautiful. I mean, we're not getting weather like this back in Montreal right now. I'm sitting outside by a pool,
Yeah. So tell us about your tour and how it is you get to be here.
We landed last Friday. We performed in Monserrat. It was a blast. Went back into Lisbon. We've done a few shows in Lisbon. We did one at Penso Amor. We've got one at Bairro tonight. And we're back in Leiria de Porto on Thursday. We're going to be with Quinta and all that.
I can't be there, sadly, because I'm working tomorrow evening. But that's going to be a great gig. It's probably sold out already, but that's what's happening here on the Silver Coast if anyone wants to come and see you. Tomorrow evening, the 25th at a Quinta Leiria de Porto. Did you have a Portuguese connection before being here? of any kind?
A slim Portuguese connection. Yeah, my manager from back home is actually born in Portugal, so
Oh, okay. So it's a good connection there.
he also owns the record label who I'm signed to, which is Honorable Records, and
Yeah,
we've got a little Portuguese connection over here.
yeah. So shout out to On a Roll Records. How did you get into this business, BeRosey? And I'd love to know more about your style, because I think you are a kind of happy hip hopper, if I can put it like that, rather than the kind of gangster style. Your message seems to be upbeat and uplifting, and we love it. How did you get into hip hop in the first place?
Well, in North America, I mean, hip hop's probably the most dominant music genre, and it's kind of, if you want to get into music, it's the first idea, and I kind of started as a young child. I was 11, and I never looked back.
Yeah. What were you listening to then? What were you listening to in those days?
Lots of 50 Cent, lots of Lil Wayne, but also lots of Guns N' Roses, lots of Metallica, Led Zeppelin, and then time to time Bass Hunter.
Are you off, Andy? Is that why you're waving, or you just put your hand up?
No. Led Zeppelin was my first favourite band, and probably still my favourite band, to be honest. Although I have a much wider musical taste nowadays, and I lived in Handsworth, home of many great bands, or close to the home of many great bands, both Jamaican influenced and heavy metal bands from the Black Country. So
there you were, BeRosey, listening to 50 Cent and to the heavy metal tunes as well. And when did you first start making your own music?
I was actually 11. First time I ever got into a studio, I was 11 years old. And,
wow.
It was a lot of practice. I was not very good. Anybody who wants to do it, just keep going.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that is great advice, isn't it? And that could be a question I'll ask you this morning for anyone aspiring to be a performer of any kind. What's your advice? And there it is. Keep going, right? So you did.
Keep going.
Yeah, you were in the studio at 11. What did you produce at that time?
It was hip hop, not the same as what I was doing. It's more early 2000s hip hop, more boom bap stuff. But it was I look at it as like a good practice era, you know. I had to learn to get to where I'm at now, and I'm grateful for all the years of the struggle.
And would you say you've really? I mean, it sounds to me like you've really found your niche and style now. After as you say, keeping going. How would you describe that particular corner of hip hop?
Definitely more funky, more disco, a lot of more smiles. That's the idea. It's I want to bring in elements of all genres into hip hop, and I just want to make it a little bit more friendly, like you were saying at the beginning. That's my only goal, is to make people happy and smile, and if I can do that, I'm happy.
Well, I think that's a great evolution, because as I was thinking about talking to you earlier on today, I was thinking about De La Soul's contribution to hip hop music, and having that album. Is it 3 Feet High and Rising? I had that on vinyl back in the day, and that was a turning point, wasn't it? That was a turning point from the kind of the celebration of violence into a more fun-loving, life-affirming style of hip hop music.
Yes, exactly. And it's there was lots of people that followed after their footsteps, and unfortunately, entertainment's kind of like movies. The violence is always going to sell. It's always going to work, and it's always going to be harder to make people smile. So I like to take the challenge on, and as long as I can keep pushing with my goal, and everyone I see in front of me ends up with a smile, we'll be all right.
Well, you've done that for us this morning. So Portugal, tell us about your Portugal trip. What sort of things have you been enjoying over here?
I've been enjoying the pastries, the food, lots of the Super Buck.
You're going to go back a few kilograms heavier.
Yeah, it's the Portugal 15. Yeah, it's like college, going to college. The college 15. There's a Portugal 15 as well. Is any of this going to find or may have an influence on your music, do you think? Have you been touched by this country and culture, and you'll be sort of writing that into your material?
Yes, definitely 100%. There's been a few times where I've been trying to seclude myself a little bit so I can write. It's definitely given me some inspiration. If I don't finish a few songs out here, I'll definitely finish them when I get back home. It won't be hard.
All right. So finally, then, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. You've got a busy
Thank
schedule.
you,
Obviously,
guys.
when you're touring a country, you've got to fit a lot in. What's your message to? We call ourselves Gumpers here on the Good Morning Portugal show. Have you got a final message for us? And how can we find out more about your music? Probably more importantly.
You guys can follow me everywhere. Roses and Henny on all platforms. BeRosey on Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you can check out Honorable Records. You'll see me and all the other guys from back home.
Yeah.
And I just want people to smile and be rosy. So
that's a simple and effective message, and very poignant that you say it's harder to make people smile. But and then maybe that's just the way the human mind works. But thank you for trying, and thank you for having that effect definitely on us. So I think we should play the tune again. BeRosey, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your Portuguese tour. Great to see you, mate. Thank you for being on the show.
Bye.
Thank you. I
Cheers.
appreciate it,
Have a
guys.
great ride. Bon voyage, and let's hear that. That is a bit good, isn't it? Very
lovely.
Good. Well, we've got about 15 minutes left on the show, Doc. Should we have a little bit of the news? Because often Ask Anything About Portugal Wednesday is a bit of a Hump Day news review as well. Can you stick around for a bit longer, or have you got to bugger off?
Maybe 5 minutes. I have got to go because I've got to get my wheelchair fixed again. Needs new lead batteries inside it. So.
Blooming wheelchairs. Always need something doing. Or it's always crunching keys while you're riding around naked. They see me roll. Is that your hip hop tune when you're in your wheelchair? They see me rolling. Oh, yeah. They hate it. Patrolling. Trying to catch me riding dirty. Right. Okay. Portugal resident. Something you might have a view on here. Well, there's definitely a couple of articles here that you'll have a view on. Nursing drain. Roughly 1,600 nurses left Portugal last year. What a waste to train those nurses only to have them leave the country. There's a definite structural problem there, isn't there, Doc?
Yes, but for those of us who came here from blood-sucking vampire countries like the UK and the US.
Oh no! Okay.
Well, no. You see, we did this. We sucked nurses and doctors from developing countries all the time.
Yeah.
Our NHS was filled with with nursing and care staff from the Far East and Africa and the Caribbean, while their hospitals were desperate for staff. And now, having and of course from Portugal, closer at hand, especially once we had joined the EU, it became very easy to find cheap staff from Portugal and Spain. And now we're seeing what that's like on the other side, and it's not good. But unfortunately, if you're going to have a market-based system, then and a free flow of people in terms of essential workers, you're going to end up with shortages, and this has to be addressed.
It's so not only a national structural problem, but a global structural problem.
Absolutely.
And back in the day, you could hear people, couldn't you, in the UK, blooming doctors and nurses coming over here and making us
speak English.
Coming over here and making us feel better.
Well, people used to complain that their doctor or their nurse didn't speak English, but you either had someone who didn't speak English, or you didn't have someone at all.
Oh, people are doing that now. You've got
a bloody grip. Yeah.
People make that same complaint about the Portuguese health system.
Yeah. Well,
you
know what?
When you're not feeling well. But there you go. There's definitely an outflux, if that is even a word, of nursing staff leaving.
Efflux.
An efflux. That sounds awful. Probably a cream for that.
It is.
I was going to say earlier on, we did have a insomnia complaint. And I think you provided the cure for that with that legal site that you shared with me as well. I think I saw 20 PDFs on there. If anyone's struggling to sleep tomorrow night in the full moon, I'll send you that link where Doc, I don't know how you do it, Doc. All those PDFs, that is a downright cure for insomnia, I think. Okay,
you know what? I'm a speed reader.
You have to be.
4 lines at a time.
Self-prescribed as well. Okay, here's another one, a medical story, which is the sort of thing you don't want to have happen to you when you're here in Portugal, either living or visiting. This is, do you recognise him from 50 Shades of Grey, Doc? Trick question.
Ah, that's where he's from, yeah.
The trick question was, you have seen that movie.
I haven't watched it all. I found it very boring, but I did watch the first 10 or 15 minutes.
Not enough cable ties, right? Jamie Dornan experienced heart attack symptoms. Northern Irish actor Jamie Dornan, best known for his role in the 50 Shades blockbuster hit film series, had to be hospitalized last year in Portugal after experiencing heart attack symptoms caused by coming into contact with processionary pine caterpillars. Now, you'll want to issue a warning about these critters, won't you? Because they are a pest here in Portugal, and this is the worst case scenario, is it not, Doc?
It is. I mean, I know they are potentially lethal, and you don't want to mess with them.
No, right. And what should one do if you find yourself irritated by these things? Present yourself at emergency.
Yeah, go to A&E. Do not pass go.
Okay. Do not get a good friend to urinate on you. That's for jellyfish. And I don't even know if that works, Doc. Is there any truth in that?
I believe there is. There's it does neutralize the irritant, but it doesn't sound particularly fetching, does it?
Well, going back to BeRosey, you want to have chosen some good friends if you find yourself in that position. I think as well. Dougie Hughes is here. Good morning to the good doctor. And Mr. M, good morning to you. It does work. Personal experience. Well, okay. I don't know if you want to tell us any more about the value of urine when it comes to neutralizing the effects of jellyfish. So I take it you have to leave us now after just giving us a warning there about the toxic caterpillar. That's a great headline. Hollywood star hospitalized in Portugal due to toxic caterpillar. Doc, thank you for being with us this morning.
Always a pleasure.
News. Thank you for your input and your protection of the consumer. Good work. And if anybody wants those links that the doc sent me, either for insomnia purposes or to take on an errant corporation, just drop me a line, 913-590-303. Doc, have a good day. Ciao, ciao. See you, mate. Ciao, ciao. There he goes, the doc. They see you rolling. They hate in. Right, we'll go over to the Portugal news now and see what they've got over there. Dougie Hughes, he just arrived here saying good morning to us. He's got an interesting... actually, I'd really value your opinion on this this morning. Portugal news. Let's go over to their website and see what's happening on their front page. Oh, thanks, Pete. Pete Bleach quoted in my current article on the Portugal Resident. Both Dougie and I are columnists of the rival papers, mainly in the south. That's where you'll find the Portugal News and the Portugal Resident. Although I can get both papers here on the Silver Coast at my friendly neighbourhood newsagent. So going to the Portugal News, let's have a look at their front page and get rid of all the adverts that come up for pile cream and braziers or whatever seems to be the last thing I searched on Google. Property tax rate frozen. Chinese invest 2 billion. What? In factory in Portugal? I mean, that's piqued my interest. Wonder what they're making there. Unusual spring-like weather coming to Portugal. What, in the spring? Lifeguard certification extended. Thousands watch the big waves in Portugal. That'll be Nazaré. Look at the size of that thing. Top restaurants in Portugal revealed. Oh, and this is a good smattering of headlines here on the Portugal News. Well done. I was dropping a comment onto your latest piece, Douglas, over there about the bunkers that the super rich are building. Ownerless land, you try saying that. Ownerless land to be transferred to the state. And the Ireland rugby squad. Bobby O'Reilly, check it out. You could go and meet that. Just as you welcomed the Portuguese rugby squad back to Terra Portuguesa, you can welcome your rugby team, Ireland rugby squad, heading to Portugal. That'll be fun. Maybe we can do an Englishman, an Irishman, and some rugby players go to a bar. I'm going to be the first casualty of such an adventure, I suspect, there. Oh, and talking of which, boozing this weekend in Coimbra at the Strong Beers Festival. Anyone joining us for that? We've got lunch coming up at the Storytellers this lunchtime. And I imagine if you want to pop along just at a regular meetup, Nelson will keep you fed and watered at the Palmeira Cafe. Now, where is your article here, Douglas? This is about the billionaires who are building themselves. I'm going to read it out if I can find the blooming thing. So let me just see if I search bunker on here, or maybe I should have searched for Hughes. Survival of the richest. There you go. Let's read a bit of this and see what you make of this, folks. I have my theories about why this is happening. I thought they just wanted a better lifestyle opportunity, just as the Portuguese are doing. Is that about the nurses? Yeah, absolutely right. It does. Personal experience. That's the jellyfish sting cure. And look at the size of that thing. The wave, of course, at Nazaré. I was there as well, kind of, yesterday. And if you missed my hack earlier on to get your photo taken with the waves at Nazaré, you don't have to go all the way to Nazaré for that. You can go to the top of my street to the campsite and photograph yourself in front of the mural that they have there at Colina do Sol. I'm still upset with you, Colina do Sol. I'm a neighbour and you haven't sent me a free pass to the camping site. And you don't even let us in. We have to pretend to be residents there to go and have a coffee in the cafe. That's rubbish. Oh, a quick weather report before we have a look at bunkers for the billionaires. Thank you very much for this weather. Oh, our mate Anton, screenshot from Pete here. But look at all that sunshine. These are the spring-like weather features, I suspect, then that were just mentioned that are coming to Portugal. Thank goodness for that. We need something here to dry out the damp. And these are the pics of the lovely sunny winter morning over at Casa Bleach there. That does look lovely looking out over the land there. And Pete, is that a telescope there, Pete? For photographing the fornicating nature and so on that you see paraded out in front of you from time to time. Okay, let's have a look at this survival of the riches piece here. Douglas Hughes, 21st of January, a few days ago. Oh, they haven't put my comment up. Maybe they never will. I did mention Disease X and Disease X, so maybe that's what got it and didn't make it past the profanity filter. Survival of the richest. I won't pretend that I know any personally, not that you know of, Doug, but it does seem to me that billionaires are very busy people. They're busy building bomb-proof underground shelters, and funnily enough, that's making me feel a tad nervous. Why? Asked Doug. Now, I don't want to be regarded as some kind of crank or a nutty prophet of doom. Too late, Doug. Nor would I appreciate being thought of as one of those tiresome conspiracy theorists either. I mean, like Doc talking about pharma companies profiteering. Yeah, that kind of conspiracy theorist. But when it's reported that the likes of Mark Zuckerberg are busy doomsday prepping, it kind of makes my ears prick a little, and a hint of panic might just be setting in. Apparently, Zuckerberg isn't the, and I mentioned this yesterday, didn't I? That so much of Portugal is underground. If you think about all the car parks, a lot of Portugal is underground, and it might come onto the radar of anybody who's trying to build an underground civilization to escape the rest of us. Apparently, Zuckerberg isn't the only one doing this. At least another dozen billionaires across the globe are buying up remote islands and using some of their newly acquired land to create underground hidey holes for themselves and their families. What's really worrying is that the completion date for these billionaire shelter complexes is winter 24. I can see the poster, the billboards, the hoardings around those sites now. Coming, winter 24, underground bunker for billionaire. If all of this isn't just idle gossip. What was it the doc called it? Overactive AI or something? Too much access, I think. Too much access. That was an interesting phrase. It must be logical to wonder what these people know that the rest of us mightn't. Nice word there. Nice couple of words truncated into one. Mightn't. A fair query, I think you'll agree. Who doesn't like a fair query first thing in the morning? I imagine that it might also be fair to assume that these people aren't actively building underground survival shelters because it's suddenly fashionable to come out all Bond villainish. Those who have reportedly witnessed these complexes being built can't all be telling porkies. So my bet is that there's some truth to these tales. It doesn't take a billionaire's insight or a tech geek's intellect to work out that the world isn't currently in a particularly fabulous sort of place. Well, it depends on your perspective, doesn't it? But I get your point. The way things are panning out, Western civilization could quite easily find itself teetering on a cultural and economic precipice. It doesn't take much to upset the apple cart. There's a lot of this talk, isn't there, around at the moment? It's always been hanging on a thread. Let's face it, there's plenty of fraying going on around the peripherals of this great human fabric of life. Nicely done there, Doug. And if you happen, a beautifully poetic description of something rather tragic there. Very nicely done. And if you happen to be a billionaire, I guess a survival bunker is a pretty good investment, all things considered. Now, I'll put the link to this, but I'm just interested in what you make of that. My theory with the underground bunkers is if you look at these people who are allegedly doing this, my guess would be that their whole careers are built on fear. They, for some reason, have made an amount of wealth that they can't possibly be spent. And the only psychological reason, I mean, given that I am a gifted and Nobel Prize-winning psychologist, not really, by the way, in case you didn't know that was a joke, my armchair psychologist tells me that these folks, they are scared. They are scared people. And one solution to existential fear, of course, is to create extreme wealth, isn't it? Because in our world, that's the currency of doing what you want to do in this life, in this existence. You would just buy your way out of situations. So if you get into that way of thinking, the more wealth you have, the more secure you might feel. And I use the word might because I don't think it actually works out like that. Conceptually, rationally, you can think, well, okay, my money has protected me so far. I've managed to create space. But instead of like doing what BeRosey's talking about, which is to create trust and friendships with people who you can rely on in an organic and one might say humanistic way, we can separate ourselves, can't we, with using wealth. We can buy our way away from the people who we fear rather than trying to make terms with them in some other more sustainable and functional way. and on it goes. And what we find is that they tend to be kind of nerdy guys, don't they, who have perhaps had a difficult childhood as well, and have using stereotypes have sort of found a way of reducing the stress they felt from the jocks of the class versus the nerds. It's the age of the nerd, isn't it? And the age in which the nerd can make a great deal of wealth, possibly, as we see here. And these guys are taking it to an extreme. And the logical conclusion, from my point of view, is if you have extreme wealth, you might discover that your wealth isn't a way of vaccinating or inoculating yourself from the worst excesses of society and your own psychological fears. It just becomes a vicious cycle, so that you have to make more money, spend more money, and the only way is down, and that is down underground in a bunker. It's a psychological metaphor. These people are terrified. They are full of fear. They chose fear instead of love, I suspect, although, I imagine there are outbursts of love occasionally in their life. It's hard for us to escape that, isn't it? As human beings, we are attuned and attracted towards love, and these other urges seem to get the better of us, which might include building a massive bunker underground to protect ourselves, and then come out into the world after the apocalypse is over. For what exactly? Wouldn't it be better, fellas, just to stop building these things and just to sort of put your hands up and say, do you know what? I'm scared. I think we're all scared. Can we talk about it? Can we start with a hug? But presumably they've gone too far. They've gone too far. Let's see what you're saying about that. It's an interesting phenomenon with fallout shelters. We had 7 being built at one time in the 80s. Yes, that was another time, wasn't it, when fear got the better of people on our road in Richmond. And a few years later, you could pick up one for peanuts. Good investment opportunity. If you only you'd bought those, Pete, you could be selling them now. They are fun to go and visit, but so unrealistic. There is an awesome one in Prague where half is used by a casino. Thank you for that. Personally, I'd like to know how many of the billionaire investors building bunkers in isolation are Davos and WEF regulars. And in the UK, you can buy a map of all of them. And if you're sad like me, go and visit them. But Prague is the funnest one. They had a wiretap in every hotel room. Pete, have you really gone into these bunkers? Wowzers, have you got a bunker under your gaff? He's not going to say, is he? Maybe Mark is wanting to hide from all the people he put in. Well, that was on my mind as well, Bob. Is it safe for Mark Zuckerberg to come out, as it were? There's coming out in terms of your sexuality, but maybe in these days, weeks, months, there could be a sort of consciousness coming out, or like Jim Carrey has done, I suppose, in a way, or Russell Brand is like, you know what? This whole thing that I got into, it was all wrong. I made a big mistake. I'm sorry. Can we do things differently, and come out in a sort of consciousness way, perhaps. But that's a good point, Bob. And you are full of interesting facts, Pete. Thanks. And it's time to stop the fear. Thank you. Come out of the bunker. I'd rather go out in the first wave than live like that and not know where my family is. Well said, Viv. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. And let's hope we can come to our senses and choose love. Look at that in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Love Portugal. It's a bit of a clue there. I'm brainwashing you every day with this stuff. Love. Yes. What am I like? Super wealthy people aren't like the rest of us, clearly. I love it when you call me Clearly Pinky. And we'll leave it there. Have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow with Boots on the Ground Heather, which is always fun and interesting. So see you then. And, of course, the webinar tomorrow. Why moving to Portugal exceeded my expectations. I'm sure that's true for a lot of people here. Let's talk about that tomorrow night at 7:30. And I'll see you for lunch at the Storytellers if you're going along to that in a couple of hours' time in the Gatsby Bar, perhaps for a little bit of chilled Vinho Verde. That's my kind of underground bunker, the Gatsby Bar, just down the road here in San Martino de Porto. Have a great day, everyone. Take care and bye for now.
Bom dia, Portugal!
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will audience will do so in kind. A little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.